It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes, it is. Week 1 in the National Football League is in the books. And I must say, I thoroughly enjoyed myself. That Monday night game last night was off the charts. The Manning simulcast, megacast, whatever the hell ESPN wants to call it, was a great success. We'll talk about that tonight. I owe a team a big, fat, nasty double O. You know I hate doing that, but a man's got to do what a man's got to do. And Thursday night football will be here before you know it, and the Giants have swept the Washington football team 2 years in a row. Change's got to come. Change has got to come. Feel like it's coming. We'll get to so many different topics tonight, but before we can start talking about week 2, we got to put a nice, big, fat, pretty bow on week number 1. You ready to do that? I think we shall. You're locked in to the 201st installment of the LouieTeeNetwork podcast that starts now. Who else could it be? With me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 201st installment of the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. It feels like I've been waiting to get this pod off my chest for what feels like 2 weeks. It's only been 1 day, okay? This is supposed to happen yesterday. Things happened. It got delayed. It was supposed to happen earlier today. It got pushed back again. Here we are at 8 o'clock at night. I really, really want to do this pod because there were so many good games over the weekend and so many costly mistakes that cost teams opportunities to win some of these games. I even want to talk a little college ball, if that's okay with you guys. We'll do that at the end of the show in garbage time. But so many things to clean up tonight. So little time to do it. Or at least that's how I phrased it in my head. But we got plenty of time now. We wouldn't have had a lot of time earlier, which is why I pushed the pod back to now. But in any event, let's jump into the proceedings this evening. I don't know how long this pod is going to go, but I could stretch this thing out 2 hours, and I don't want to do that. So let's jump into the proceedings this evening. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind. Let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T-double-E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So I want to put a bow on a topic that we discussed multiple times before the start of the regular season, and that is my preseason philosophy on how you play your players and what approach you should or shouldn't take. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and with this philosophy, there's no right or wrong answer. I'm not right. I'm not wrong. You're not right. You're not wrong. It's the way you want to do it. All right. So NFL coaches have handled the preseason differently across the league, and there have been mixed results. So again, it just hammers home the point. I just wanted to come back and say this because I made such a big stink about the Rams not playing their starters. And I said they could get away with it. They got Matthew Stafford, but then I went and doubled down on the Chargers, and I said if they come out slow and they struggle, then you know what? They should have played their damn starters. Well, they started out the game on a beautiful, 11-play drive that culminated in a touchdown. They didn't look like they had any rust. They didn't look like they missed any beats. They were perfectly fine without the preseason. Now, they would ultimately bog down, and they would only score 20 points on the afternoon, but still, they were just fine without preseason ball. You take a look at a team like the Green Bay Packers. They didn't play their starters, did they? Aaron Rodgers had some turmoil over the offseason, wasn't with the team at OTAs or any of the offseason activities, showed up right before the start of the season. Really, he showed up at camp. He was at camp. Okay, I don't want to make it seem like he showed up a week before the season started. But didn't get any reps in the preseason games. None of the starters really did, for that matter. how'd the Green Bay Packers look? Is that a byproduct of them not playing in the preseason, or are the Saints really that good? Or, it could be a multitude of things. These things happen. Ass whoopings are handed out sometimes. Sometimes you're the recipient. Sometimes you're the one dishing it out. You could look at another team. The Giants decided they were going to be pretty coy with the preseason. Didn't look like a great plan to me. What about the Falcons? Not a lot of talent there. I thought they could have used as much work as humanly possible. Oy vey. But then you got other teams that didn't really play their players, like Seattle. They didn't look like they struggled to me. None of their guys played in the preseason. So I said all of that to say this. It really doesn't matter what you decide to do. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. There's no right or wrong way to do it. I just have my preference, okay? And as far as the injury thing is concerned, well, Washington didn't play their starters in the third preseason game, and guess what? Their quarterback got hurt in the second quarter of their first game of the season. So what difference does it make? That he got hurt in the second quarter of the first game, or that he got hurt in the second quarter of a preseason game? Who gives a shit? He's still hurt, and he's not going to play for the next 6 to 8 weeks, or maybe even longer. So I said all of that to say this. No right or wrong way to do it. I just needed to come back and clean that up because I made such a big stink about it in the offseason and in the preseason. And really, it doesn't really matter. And I told you that it wasn't going to matter past week 1. And for a lot of teams, it didn't matter at all. For some teams, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. We can't prove either way. And that's why this is an exercise in futility that I want to put a bow on and move on. So that's what I'm doing. So I want to talk about second-year QBs real quick. They were clutch, man. They were clutch in week number 1. We're going to talk about those quarterbacks getting it done for their ball clubs. I also want to talk about the rookies. None of the rookies in the first round of this year's draft that started in week 1 got a W. All of them took losses. Mac Jones lost in a nail-biter to the Dolphins, 17-16. The Jets went on the road and lost to the Carolina Panthers, 19-14. And, of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars were destroyed on the road at Houston. I think that ended up being 37-21, I believe that one ended up being. Yeah, that's what it ended up being. So, and Trey Lance did not start for the 49ers, was a part of a winning effort, but he was not the starter. That distinction goes to Jimmy Garoppolo. So none of the young boys in their first career NFL start got it done. Meanwhile, the second-year boys were flourishing, including Justin Herbert putting together a masterful drive to put the game away against Washington. He was outstanding, especially on third down, which is the money down in the National Football League. He was outstanding. Joe Burrow was equally as impressive in his first game back from his ACL injury. He was fantastic, and they needed him to be, because that game ultimately went to overtime before the Bengals were able to put it out with the game-winning field goal. And then there's Tua Tagovailoa, which he's the forgotten man in this entire equation. No one really wants to give him any love or any respect. But I thought, just like Justin Herbert, when the game was on the line, when his Patriots or when his Miami Dolphins team needed to salt the game away and they needed a drive and they needed completions, he made it happen. And I thought he was really poised late in the game. Despite turning it over the possession before, he bounced back and rallied the troops and got the win for the Dolphins. So, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Jalen Hurts, who is a second-year quarterback. They destroyed the Atlanta Falcons. We'll talk more about that as well. So if you want to throw him in the second-year quarterback discussion, by all means, knock yourself out. He got the start, and they took care of business on the road at Atlanta. So the second-year QBs were absolutely clutch in week number 1. We'll see if that trend continues in week number 2. And then lastly, I don't know if you watched the Megacast last night with Eli and Peyton on Monday night. That's been the talk of just about every sports outlet today, and rightfully so. It was an amazing Megacast. It was a tremendous success, And the thing that I probably enjoyed the most was the spontaneity of it. Like, Eli has his fire alarm go off. If you've watched me, then that's happened to me before. As I've been live with you guys, I've got my fire alarm going off in the background. And, these are the things that happen when you're live. Like, they're still ironing out the kinks. They've got the producer, and I don't know if they meant to do this or not. I'm pretty sure they didn't. I'm pretty sure this is some behind-the-scenes stuff that happens on every broadcast, but we can't hear it, but they can in their headsets. But every time they were going to commercial break or right around halftime, you got the producer saying, "Hey guys, we're going to commercial in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1." And then it would cut the commercial. I'm like, I'm pretty sure we weren't supposed to hear that. Like, everything was trial and error with them because it was the first episode. It was their first opportunity to do this. So, and then it had that YouTube live vibe, like you're on, a StreamYard with a couple of buddies, because they're bringing in guests. These guests are all over the place. They're talking. They got to go to commercial break. Peyton's got to cut them off and let them know we got to go to commercial break. We're watching the game. Travis Kelce is talking. They're trying to talk about the game. Kelsey's talking about the game from yesterday. They're all over the place. It was great, though. I personally could do without the guest. Now, I must say, could they just add Russell Wilson to the stream? Can they just add him to the MegaCast? Pay him every week to come on in the fourth quarter and just let him do the fourth quarter. And then let him go back about his business. Now, obviously, can't do it every week. There'll be times where he has to play on Thursday. There'll be times where he has to play on Monday, so he won't be available to actually do it. But if he's playing on Sunday, I'd love to see Russell Wilson do the fourth quarter of all of these games with them, because he was fantastic. He was the only guest where I was like, he's allowed to be on. The rest of them, I don't ever want to see them back on the telecast again. Travis Kelce is fine. I'm good. Don't need to see him again. I don't need to see Charles Barkley up there talking about gambling and when he would have played in high school, this, that, and the third. And I damn sure don't need to see Ray Lewis up there talking about laughing the whole time. I don't need to see him laughing for 20 minutes. I'd prefer to just hear Eli and Peyton talking about the game and destroying Peyton's forehead and all kinds of different jokes about each other. Love the fact that Peyton destroyed the Pro Football tweet that they put up on the screen that spelled prescription wrong. I just love the entire broadcast. And again, I told you I had it on two different screens. So I had, the Simulcast, the MegaCast on one screen, and then I had the live game, the regular ESPN broadcast on another, but that one was muted. I didn't need to hear them. I just wanted to hear what Peyton and Eli were saying. And I just love the fact that they were going through the game as it was happening, kind of describing what's going through the mind of the quarterback and maybe the coach as he's calling plays. I love the fact that they also shot down a lot of false narratives and misnomers, because the media gets on my nerves a lot of times. Fans do this too. They really irk my nerves when they talk about adjustments. That's one of the things fans love to do, and the media loves to do it. Even today, I'm listening to a press conference with Washington and Chase Young in particular, and one of the beat reporters is like, "Hey, we saw some adjustments you guys made where you're switching sides. That shit isn't an adjustment." And Chase is like, "Actually, we didn't do any adjustments. Montez just came over to me and was like, 'Hey, let's switch.'" And Chase is like, "Okay." Like, everyone wants to make it out to be this grandiose scheme. Oh my God, look at all the adjustments they made. Washington hasn't given up a third quarter point this season. Not really adjustments. Peyton and Eli are like, "Dude, we go in the locker room. The coaches go in one room, then you might talk to your positional coaches for like 5 minutes. You come in and literally halftime is over just like that. You don't have time to sit there and scheme up a bunch of, adjustments to what they're doing. That's what the sideline and the tablet is for. That's when you're coming up with adjustments. That's when you're seeing things and you're going over it. Not at halftime. The guys are going and using the bathroom. If you've ever played football, it doesn't matter what level you've played at. If you've played at a level where there's a halftime, then halftime is like 15 minutes. And by the time you actually get into the locker room, you use the bathroom, you get some hydration, whether you're eating oranges or whatever you choose to refuel your body. By the time you sit down and you look up, it's time to go back on the damn field. Like there are no adjustments really being made. And so I love the fact that they dispelled that, notion that all these adjustments are being made at halftime. No, you're making adjustments on the sidelines when you come off of the field after a possession, whether good or bad, and you continue to do that as the game continues to play itself out. So at the end of the day, I thought that the MegaCast was a big hit. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I couldn't take my eyes off of it. And I can't tell you the last time I enjoyed a Monday night game that much, not to mention the game itself was ridiculous. I mean, it was one of the craziest Monday night games I've seen, like top 5 in terms of just wackiness. Obviously, that game last year with the Ravens and the Browns right up there as well. This one, I think it had even more twists and turns because how many times did we think, okay, the Ravens won? No, now the Raiders are won. Now the Ravens are going to win. No, now the Raiders are going to win. How many times did we think that was going to happen? And to see Eli and Peyton's reaction and Russell Wilson telling us exactly, like this was better than Romo because Romo's at practice. He's seen the audibles. He's seen what they've done. So he knows what's coming. Russell Wilson isn't at practice. He doesn't know what they're about to do. He's just coming from the perspective of a quarterback and saying, hey, this is what I would do. This is my money guy. This is who I'm going to. And that's exactly what happened. You had all these different situations where they were actually telling us what was going to happen. Eli's like, I would not go hard count here. What does Derek Carr do? They go hard count and you get a false start. It was crazy. It's amazing how many times they said something was going to happen or not happen or shouldn't happen, and it did happen. They were spot on, and it was just fun to watch the game through the eyes of cerebral quarterbacks that know what the hell they're talking about and can kind of give you a sense of this is what the quarterback sees. This is what he's looking for on this particular play, and they're telling you. And I've been trying to explain this to you guys. Man versus zone. How that's why you see all these motions and things of that nature because it gives you a clear identification as to what the defense is in, man or zone. Now, the complicated defenses, they could play man on one side, zone on the other, but that's really hard to pull off. But generally speaking, you walk your running back, you come out of the huddle, empty set, and then you have your running back come motion back towards the quarterback or vice versa. That linebacker walks out there with him or comes in tight with him, okay, I got man coverage. I know what it is. So now I know what side of the field I want to work, where what matchup I'm looking to take advantage of, or you see what kind of looks, and Peyton's talking about them rotating safeties and things of that nature. I just thought it was a fantastic job by ESPN of figuring out this pairing, figuring out this whole setup, because they had been struggling on Monday night with the booth and what to do. And obviously they still got their core guys doing the game. Steve Levy, Brian Greasy, and Louis Riddick still doing the game on Monday nights. I've already said, and when they first came out with this idea, you remember the podcast episode when we talked about it, I said, if I were those guys, I'd be pissed because nobody's going to be watching. Once everyone gets a wind of what's going on ESPN2, nobody's going to be watching the ESPN, copy of this thing. No one's going to be watching the main broadcast. Everybody's going to be watching Eli and Peyton Manning. And, a lot of people maybe didn't tune in. They didn't know or they don't care. If you didn't know, now everybody's talking about it. So if you didn't check it out, you're going to probably feel compelled to check it out next week. The game isn't going to be as compelling next week. I don't think, at least. I say that now, and then maybe the Packers aren't that good, and maybe the Lions aren't as bad, and maybe we get a competitive game. It's family business. You know how that goes. Anything can happen when two family members get together. So maybe we will get a competitive game next week. I don't think we will, but who knows? We'll see. At the end of the day, even if the game isn't worth the damn, I still think that telecast will be with the Mannings. And so, man, I was racing over to the TV every time they came off a commercial break to unmute the TV, because I always put the TV on mute on commercial breaks because I'm working on the computer trying to do a whole bunch of things and multitask, and I don't want the noise of the commercials, distracting me. So I always mute the TV, but then I'm looking to check to see if it's back on. And once it was back on, I'd run over and unmute it. I didn't want to miss a thing. I can't tell you the last time I was that dialed into a football game on Monday night. And not necessarily because of the two teams on the field, but because of what was being done in the booth. It's rare that a booth adds to the value of the game. How often is it that a booth or a pairing adds value to the game that you're watching? A lot of times we're complaining about the guys doing the game. Oh, I can't stand Chris Collinsworth. He's the worst. Joe Buck, he's a hack. I mean, every time you turn around, we're complaining about one of these broadcasters or color commentary guys or analysts. It was refreshing to just hear these two chumming it up, and sharing stories, but also talking the game. Now, I've talked about some of the drawbacks to having them. A lot of times they're not paying attention to penalty flags. If you want some of the feel-good stories, like they told a story last night about Max Crosby, they showed the tattoo 3/11/21, of sobriety for him and things of that nature. Like they told the story of Darren Waller and how those two kind of, really helped each other. And Waller was really a mentor for Max Crosby. Like, you're not getting that feel-good story if you're watching Peyton and Eli. Like they showed a clip of Lamar Jackson playing in high school against his cousin, who's Trayvon Mullen, who plays for the Raiders. And they're showing his high school clip of them playing against one another and Lamar breaking off a big run and his cousin trying to catch him from behind. And they had no idea what the hell that was about. They're like, what is this high school? They're showing high school stuff. Like, they have no idea what's going on because they're in their own world talking about, different things. So if you're looking for that, then you need to watch the regular TV broadcast. If you're looking for analysis of the game, and you'll get a little tomfoolery. If you're not looking for that, you're going to have to take a little bit of that. But some of it is good-natured, and it flows and weaves into the game. Some of it, you're like, okay, I don't need this. But I'm going to say it again. I enjoyed it as much as one can enjoy a broadcast. And again, in terms of nutritional value, they added tons. And you can't say that about too many broadcast booths. A lot of times there's no nutritional value being added. You just usually take it because it's a part of the game. And if you want the game bad enough, then you have to endure the broadcast. That's a great way to take in an NFL game. And, I read something today that it really does frustrate me because they're right. And I think it might have been an article in The Athletic or somewhere else. I don't remember where I read it, but they were pretty much saying that this is going to spawn a bunch of knockoff type shows where other networks decide, you know what? They're on to something, and they're going to try to put a couple of ex-players there to break down the game on their network, and it's not going to be quite as compelling theater as, the Mannings doing it. But I think it's going to happen. I could see this happening. Fox deciding, you know what? We got a couple of guys we think that have the gift for the gab. We're going to put these two guys up here and let them talk about, a big-time matchup on Thursday Night Football and let them have a mega cast on Thursday night since we own Thursday Night Football. I could see Fox doing that. You know what I mean? I could see NBC deciding, you know what? We got some guys on payroll, or we could get some guys on payroll that are retiring that we think can do what the Mannings are doing, and we'll have a mega cast. And I don't know about that, but we'll see. At the end of the day, I really enjoyed the game thoroughly. So that was some good stuff, man. And then I think what also made it that much more enjoyable was the game itself was just crazy, insane. I mean, John Gruden, I thought, described it perfectly after the game last night, where he's like, I felt like a cat, like I had 9 lives. Like, I died and I came back to life, and I died again and I came back to life. Like, I wanted it to be over. Like, stop doing this. Because we were riding the roller coaster of emotions, right? And I'm not even a Raiders fan. And I'm like, oh my God, they just lost this game. Now, first thing that pissed me off, though, I had the football pool was on the line and I had a chance to win it. And I only way I could win is if I hit the points exactly on Monday night. I needed it to be 51 points and the Ravens win. So I didn't have any room for error. I literally, if they hit 50 points, I lose. Someone had 50 points underneath me and had the Ravens, they would have won. If they went over 51, somebody else had 52, and up. So they would have won the pool. I had to hit 51 on the head or I lost. So it was a long shot, but when I pick my points for Monday night, I always have a score in mind, and I had two, either 31-20 Ravens or 27-24. And wouldn't you know it, when Justin Tucker kicks the field goal, I'm over here beating my damn chest. I'm the goddamn man. 27-24. I knew that shit was going to happen. And I'm over here stomping around, talking about how I'm the man. I killed this shit. I did it again. And then, wouldn't you know it, two damn completions later, it's 27-27. And I'm sitting Indian style, shaking my head in utter disbelief in front of the TV screen, 6 inches. And I'm like, what happened? This is insane. I had this thing in the bag. How could you do this to me, Baltimore? So I had to get over the initial disbelief of, I just lost the pool. I just lost $100. I had it right here in my hands. So after I got over the initial sting of, God damn it, I had it and I did everything right, and the Ravens blew it for me, then I was like, you know what? I got to get over it, but I can still get the Ravens win. That'll help me in the winners and losers, league, because the person that was going to win the pool had the Raiders. So I'm like, at least I can get a game back on them and I'll close the gap. Wouldn't you know it, the Raiders end up winning the damn game. So it was a double whammy for me last night. It was a brutal. Had my noodle over here just throbbing. But you know what? It's all good. I'm going to bounce back. But, yeah, it was one hell of a night last night. I enjoyed it. Looking for more of it. Thursday night was awesome. Monday night was awesome. Sunday night was awful. You put it together, and it was a sandwich of awesomeness. I loved it. Want more of it. So, with that, we're going to take a quick break, get a word from one of our sponsors, come back on the other side, jump into Slate Skatin Week 1 edition, and then we'll get to some garbage time afterwards. You are dialed in to the 201st installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I will see you guys on the other side. I want to take this time to thank Manscaped for sponsoring the Louie T Network podcast. Fantasy football draft season is upon us. It's time you put the PP back in PPR League with the sponsors of today's show, Manscaped. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming just launched the new Performance Package 4.0. Don't neglect your balls like the Packers front office has been neglecting Aaron Rodgers. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by going to manscaped.com, getting 20% off plus free shipping with the promo code LouieT. This will help you tame that Troy Polamalu in your pants. If you're grooming below the waist, the Performance Package 4.0 is an essential purchase. And good news for all of our international listeners out there, their life-changing products are now available in Canada, the UK, across Europe, Australia, South Africa, and even Singapore. Inside the Performance Package 4.0, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, crop preserver, ball deodorant, crop reviver toner, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag as well. First scheduled for liftoff, new Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer. This spaceship is here to guide you on a journey to trim your balls, body, and even your A-gap. Don't want to fall prey to that double A-gap blitz. This 4th generation trimmer also features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction on and off switch which can engage travel lock, and is even waterproof. The Lawnmower 4.0 also has a 4000K LED spotlight which allows you to be as accurate as that clip of Tom Brady playing catch with the jugs machine. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker. It's like having Derrick Henry run through those tough nose and ear hairs. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual blade system. This ear and nose hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs in those sensitive holes. Pause. Don't forget to use the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and their Crop Reviver to help your little bench warmers be on their A game while feeling the sun's heat. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and Shed Travel Bag as well. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the promo code LouieT at Manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the promo code LouieT at Manscaped.com. If your significant other is nagging you about how much time you put in your fantasy team, you might as well gift them some beautiful balls with Manscaped. And trust me when I tell you this, your balls and your significant other will thank you. Welcome back to the 201st installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. I don't know about y'all. Do y'all like cherries? I love cherries. It's one of the few fruits that have seeds that I willingly eat. Now, there are other fruits that I eat that have seeds in them, but I don't eat them as often as I do cherries. Now, you're supposed to eat fruit with seeds in them because if they don't have seeds, usually that means they've been manipulated. But I just love cherries. So don't mind me. I'll be munching on some cherries as we do this Slate Skatin. Put your skates on, guys. We're about to hit the road, have some fun, talk about these games. Got a couple of comments that I want to get to, and I think I have a couple of brand new members of the Mob Squad. Trev J, thank you for your membership and becoming a bronze member of the Mob Squad. Greatly appreciate you. Trev J, stand up. You are officially in the building as a brand new member of the MOBB squad. You know what to do. Show my man Trev J some love, and thank you for your membership. Also, got a brand new member here in Vincent Coe. My guy, Vincent Coe, thank you for your membership. Stand up, Vincent. You now are officially a member of the MOBB squad up. Y'all know what to do. Show Vincent Coe some love. Vincent, thank you for becoming a silver member of the mob, and welcome aboard. Got another super chat, or a super chat, I should say, from Vegan Hippie. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Vegan Hippie, who writes, Wink Martindale blew that game. 0 blitz in all game. I can see how you could feel that way. Look, at the end of the day, coordinators are going to do what they do. That's his MO. Be aggressive. What Martindale is going to have to realize is without having Marcus Peters on the opposite side of Marlon Humphrey, you can't be as aggressive as you once were. Now you have liabilities in the secondary that didn't exist before. And so you have to be a little bit more cognizant of when you can, bring pressure and go with the 0 blitz and when you may need to back off. You have to be a little bit more selective of your spots that you're picking when to come with pressure. He was too predictable last night. I mean, literally every single big play in the game, they just came with an all-out blitz. They didn't even try to hide it. They didn't look like they were coming and then drop out sometimes. They mugged the line of scrimmage with 8 defenders, and 7 of them came. They'd mug the line of scrimmage with 7 dudes, and 6 of them would come. And you're like, they're not effing around, man. They're not effing around. Like, they look like they're coming, they're coming. So they made it pretty easy for Vegas to just say, all right, guys, go deep. I'm going to throw it up, give you a shot. And I think Martindale was a little bit too aggressive, especially at the end of the regulation. He was like the polar opposite. Like, there's no middle ground with him. Either they're super conservative, like they were at the end of regulation, which allowed the 2 easy, deep completions over the middle of the football field, or they're being uber aggressive and there's no safety help at all. Everybody's got a man, and if you get beat, you get beat. So, yeah. Anyway, let's get into these games. Let's go Slate Skatin, man. Let's do that. So, let's start in Seattle, or in Indianapolis, where the Seattle Seahawks took on the Indianapolis Colts. Seahawks get the victory 28-16. Man, this was an impressive game by the Seahawks. So, all the talk leading up to this game was about Indianapolis, Carson Wentz, their all-world guard, Quentin Nelson. Would those guys be ready? Same exact injury to their foot. Both ended up being ready, and both ended up playing, and actually playing solid football. Wentz started off the game like 10 of 11. Played well. Throughout the game, I thought there was some pressure on him. And Wentz is one of those guys, sometimes he can get into a little bit of trouble trying to extend plays and not knowing when to say when and giving up on a play. That said, I thought that the Seattle Seahawks, I just love what they do. They know who they are. And when they're clicking, when they're playing their best brand of football, Chris Carson is at the focal point, or whomever is at running back. When they were at their peak of their powers, Marshawn Lynch was at the focal point of their offensive attack. I feel like Russell Wilson is a guy that can take over the game at any time that he needs to. But really what they want to do is they want to run the football. They want to establish that run. They want to use their backs in the passing game. Chris Carson, is a guy that can catch it. He's so physical. I just love Chris Carson and the way he plays the game of football. And off of that, you get Russell Wilson outside of the pocket. You start to get that play action fake. You get the defense to suck up because they have to respect the threat of the run. And now all of a sudden, Russell Wilson is taking shots down the field. And I talk about this guy all the time because I think he's one of those underrated receivers. We talk about Seattle. The first name you're talking about at the receiver position is DK Metcalf. But to me, he's not the most important receiver on their team. The most important receiver on their team is Tyler Lockett. When he goes, the rest of that offense goes to me. Because DK will always be there. There'll always be an opportunity to take a shot at DK, get him the football. He's a big physical guy. But everyone forgets about Tyler Lockett, and he's, to me, the guy that is the most dangerous and explosive. And so he was phenomenal in the game. Had a beautiful over-the-shoulder catch where he had to track it in the air. That was the first touchdown of the game. The one that was the backbreaker was the one right before the halftime break. Russell Wilson takes a sack. It's 2nd and 20. And you're thinking, okay, now you just want to get in the field goal range. And they give him a cover 2 look, which is, what the Colts like to do. They split that cover 2 with Russ just throws a dime between the 2 safeties, 60 yards down the field, drops it in the bucket. Lockett's able to get under it and get into the end zone. And it felt like after that moment, they had seized control of the game. Another big point in the game, and I talked about costly fumbles in week 1. The Colts had one. They're going for it on 4th down. Carson Wentz goes for a quarterback sneak, doesn't secure the center quarterback exchange on the snap, fumbles it before he could even get into the pile to try to pick up the 1st down. Seahawks recovered the football, ultimately go down, score. DK Metcalf catches a touchdown and puts the game pretty much out of reach. Seahawks win the game 28-16. Indianapolis is going to be fine. I thought they did some good things offensively. I think it was good to see the receiver, Paris Campbell, be on the field. It seems like he's never on the field. It's good to see him out there. They got some good contributions from some of their other receivers. Zach Pascal, I thought, had a really solid game. The run game was strong. Love, obviously, just got a new deal. Nyheim Hines, I thought, was really strong. But it just wasn't enough. Defensively, they gave up too many big plays. It wasn't enough. And they didn't make enough big plays of their own on the offensive side of the football. Couple that with a turnover, and that's how you lose to a really good, strong Seattle Seahawks football team, 28-16. Jacksonville at Houston. This game was never in doubt. Jacksonville found themselves trailing by, I want to say, 17 before you really, caught your breath. And then next thing you know, that thing was, 30, 27-7. They ran away and hid with this football game. But Tyrod Taylor looked sharp, and I talk a lot of shit about Tyrod, but it's not because of the talent. It's because I know he's not going to stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, the Texans will have a shot. He's just like Teddy Bridgewater. He's just like Alex Smith, except he's not afraid to chuck it deep every so often. But he's a guy that's going to take care of the football. He's going to manage the game well. He's going to extend plays. He's smart. He knows where to go with the ball. Like Tyrod, you can win football games with Tyrod Taylor. But at one point in this game, he got up shaking his arm, and I'm like, there's the shit. There it is. He's not going to last for 17 weeks. That's the problem with Tyrod Taylor. He's got a style of play that lends itself to him getting injured. He runs a lot, puts himself in harm's way. I mean, even when he's trying to do the right thing and get out of bounds, he still gets pushed, and knocked down to the ground. Like, he's not going to last 17 weeks, but he was extremely sharp in this football game. Brandon Cooks was phenomenal. They distributed the ball well to their backs out of the backfield, David Johnson and Mark Ingram and the guy from Denver, Philip Lindsay. They did a really good job. They're one of their tight ends. Man, I forgot his name. 85. Like Pharaoh. What is it? Pharaoh Brown? I think it was Pharaoh Brown. Man, he had himself a hell of a football game. I was impressed. You flip it over to Jacksonville's side of things, and ton of drops first and foremost. You got a rookie quarterback making his first career NFL start. You got to help the guy out. You cannot have a ton of drop passes. He needs all the confidence, all the help he can get. And you got some of your big time guys dropping the rock. You got DJ Chark with a drop. And you got your tight end with a drop. You got, guys that you're counting on to make plays for your running back, dropping the football out of the backfield. You need all hands on deck with a rookie quarterback. And they didn't do that. And you saw flashes of why Trevor Lawrence was the number one pick in the draft. And there's a touchdown throw down the sideline where he threads the needle where you're like, whew, that's top choice, grade A, first-rate quarterback stuff. And then he throws the pick over the middle of the football field, and you go, who in the hell were you throwing it to? And you're thinking, okay, maybe it got tipped. Maybe his arm got hit. Maybe his guy was right behind the guy, and he didn't see that defender. And then you watch the replay, and you're like, dude, there's no way you were throwing to that receiver. Who in the hell were you throwing to? What were you looking at, and what were you doing? Man, that's that rookie shit. So he's got a long way to go. 3 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions for Trevor Lawrence in the game. And the Texans took advantage of a young guy that just still trying to figure it out. They get it done 37-21 over the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Philadelphia Eagles at the Atlanta Falcons. This game started out like it was going to be ultra competitive. The Falcons marched it right up the field, twice. Got stoned in the red zone twice. And it was like after that happened, they lost all sense of the ability to function with any kind of efficiency. And from that point forward, the Eagles really seized control of the game, even though the scoreboard didn't really reflect it until probably the third quarter. They were dominating that game after the first 2 possessions. You never really felt like the Falcons had a shot. And then to make matters worse, they kept shooting themselves in the foot. I can't tell you how many penalties the Falcons had in this game and how many of them were offensive penalties that killed big plays and killed drives. They were awful in that department. Arthur Smith looked like he was way in over his head. He looked confused. He looked lost. He looked like he didn't know what the hell was going on. There was one play where Jalen Hurts completes a pass wide open. First of all, should have been a walk-in touchdown. Hurts pulled the string on it. I mean, there is literally no one around Zach Ertz in a 20-yard radius in any direction. He catches this thing. He could have slowly jogged into the end zone, and somebody could have been running full speed, and they still wouldn't have caught him. He had that much space behind the rest of the defense. That said, Hurts severely underthrows it to where he's got to go down and dig it out, except he didn't. It hit the ground. It's clearly not a catch. But Arthur Smith is lost somewhere in La La Land, and so he allows the Eagles to run up to the line of scrimmage and snap the ball. And it's a big play in the game. At that time, it was 7-6. What are you doing, guy? Can't let that play go. He was lost, but the Eagles weren't lost, especially along the fronts on defense and offense. They dominated up front on the offensive line. Hurts stayed relatively clean. The running game was very effective with Hurts using his legs, but without him, they still were having some success on the ground. And then defensively, they dominated the Atlanta Falcons offensive line, especially in the fourth quarter when they were looking to put this game on ice. Matt Ryan was harassed. He was uncomfortable. They dominated this game. Hurts was really solid, used his legs beautifully, made some throws. I thought he was a little erratic on some of the throws, and then he was pinpoint accurate on other throws, including the touchdown pass to Devontae Smith early in the game. All in all, the Eagles were dominant. This wasn't a contest that really felt much in doubt after the first two drives by Atlanta. I never had confidence that they had the ability to do anything. And then anytime you tried to feel like they could get something done, they self-destructed with penalties, offensive pass interferences, and things of that nature. They weren't good. Simply put, they were one of the worst teams I saw in week one. And if that doesn't change, they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. Eagles dominate 32-6. And that was a hell of a start to the Eagles season. Chargers at Washington. I can tell you this much. Justin Herbert and Rashawn Slater are legit. And you go ahead and throw Keelan Allen in there, which we already knew. But when you're talking about young guys, it doesn't get much better than what Justin Herbert and Rashawn Slater did in that game. Those two were phenomenal. You throw in Keenan Allen's performance. If you weren't a Washington fan, it was a clinic and fun to watch. If you were a Washington fan, it made you want to vomit. Because on third down, you knew where they were going, and we still couldn't stop it. Justin Herbert at the end of the game, last possession, they started their own 18-yard line. They have a 3rd and 16 to kick that drive off after a holding penalty set them back. And they complete an 18-yard pass, a 14-yard pass right in the middle of the field, and nobody's around Keenan Allen. How this happens, I don't know. But he catches it, turns around, runs for an additional 2 yards, which is the first down, and then dives for an additional 2 yards and gets 18. And then after that, every third down thereafter, Keenan Allen again, Keenan Allen again, Keenan Allen again, until the game was over. We had no more timeouts, and they were able to take knees. It was a clinic on how to carve up an NFL defense that is not getting pressure on the quarterback. And Rashawn Slater did his thing on the left side of the offensive line, whether it was the pass game or the run game. He was equally impressive. They have studs on the offensive side of the football. Mike Williams, he made some catches. He dropped some. Boy, did he make some catches. Keenan Allen had a big drop on a third down early in the game. But boy, did they make some big catches, man. They were both fantastic. And then Jared Cook, who they added, they lost Hunter Henry. They needed another weapon. They add Jared Cook, and he made big play after big play after big play himself. And the biggest play in the game, though, and I talked about games with fumbles that really impacted the game. You have to take a look at the fumble by Antonio Gibson, the running back. So when you flip it to Washington's side of things, this is the story of the game for them. One big turnover, untimely penalties, and third downs on defense. The Chargers were 14 of 19 on third downs in this game. Justin Herbert himself was 13 of 16 on third downs for like 100 and some odd yards and like 8 or 9 completions that netted the Chargers first downs. It was insane. We had no answers, simply put. Defensively, it was a joke. It was a big disappointment, not the start that we thought we were going to get off to defensively. Hopefully it's a wake-up call. A lot of the errors in the game seem like they're correctable, but that's never the way you want to start. But even with that said, even with the Chargers' success on third downs, even with the missed field goal, even with the untimely penalties, Washington still leading in the game 16-13 after forcing their second turnover of Justin Herbert. Had already forced him to fumble. Ball went out of the back of the end zone. That's a questionable call. Whatever the case may be, we got the benefit of it. They just had picked him off. Literally 2 plays prior, they had just picked Herbert off. William Jackson III, big free agent acquisition, picks him off inside the 5. And so Washington's got the football, and they got 7 yards of real estate in front of them. And Antonio Gibson, their running back, fumbles the ball back to the Chargers. They recover right around the 4-yard line, and they score 3 plays later, the game-winning touchdown, and win the game 20-16. Steelers at Bills. This was a heartbreaker if you're a Bills fan because this was total domination. Steelers were dominated in this game. Listen to this. They were 4 of 12 on third downs, so roughly 33%. Not good. Not good at all. I just told you the Chargers were 14 of 19, which equals out to 71%. That's not normal, okay? The league average is usually somewhere around 42, 43, maybe 44% conversion rate for offenses. They were 33%. They had 252 yards of total offense to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But here's the difference in the game. They didn't beat themselves. They didn't turn over the ball. They didn't go for it on fourth down, which is normally a staple of the Steelers. They're just loosey-goosey. Go for it on third down, 2-point conversion this, 2-point conversion that. Didn't do none of that shit. They kept it simple. They kept it basic. They didn't turn the ball over. They didn't do anything crazy. And they had a special teams blocked punt that went for a touchdown. They won 2 out of the 3 phases of the game. And in this league, a lot of times, if you can manage to do that, you'll find yourself on the right side of the scoreboard. And that's essentially what they did. They won defense, and they won special teams, and they won the game. And as far as the Buffalo Bills are concerned, they were 1 of 3 on fourth down. I didn't understand the need to be so aggressive on fourth down. They were up 10-0, and they're at the Steelers' 40-yard line, and they're deciding to go for it multiple times. And I'm like, I get it. You got Josh Allen, you got Stephon Diggs, you got Gabe Davis, you got Cole Beasley, you got all these weapons. You got Devin Singletary out of the backfield. I get it, but you were dominating defensively. Just punt the football or kick the field goal. Several times they were in field goal range when they decided to go for it on fourth down. Just kick the field goal. Their kicker has plenty of leg to get it done. And so they were 1 of 3 on fourth downs. They were 1 of 4 in the red zone. I've talked about that. That'll get you beat every time. Every single time. You don't score touchdowns. You settle for field goals. It'll come back to haunt you. And it did in this game. And they had 8 penalties for 81 yards. That'll hurt you as well. They had the Josh Allen fumbled, and that's if you're looking for one chink in the armor with Josh Allen, is that ball security isn't always of top priority for him, especially when he gets outside the pocket. He's not paying attention to his surroundings, holding the ball in one hand, and a lot of times it gets stripped out of there. Had one of those situations happen, and then they had the punt block. That was the one that was the backbreaker. But they were up 10-0 and gave up 20 unanswered points in this game before kicking a field goal and cutting it to a 1-score game at 20-13. But They had their chances in this game to put the Steelers away when they were sleepwalking in the first half of this game, and they just refused to do it. And they lose this game 23-16. They had no business losing this football game. None whatsoever. 49ers at the Detroit Lions. This was my survivor pick of the week. I told you I think the Lions are going to stink this year. So needless to say, I wasn't surprised when midway through the third quarter, the score in this game is 38-10. Okay. I mean, the 49ers were doing whatever the hell they wanted to do. Guys were running off big plays. Guys were catching plays and running after the catch for touchdowns. It was a clinic, man. And then it was 41-17. And I stopped paying attention. And I said, this game's over. And I've watched this game up until this point, and the Lions haven't as much as even even opened their mouth to make a sound, let alone roared in the game, as Lions often do. And then the 49ers shut it down. They thought they had the game in the bag. They're not worried about anything. And so the Lions score a touchdown with 3 minutes left. And they kick an onside kick. George Kittle fumbles the onside kick. He muffs it. And the Lions recover. And 2 minutes later, they score another touchdown. And both times they scored touchdowns, they got the 2-point conversion. And I'm like, interesting. Well, they're still not going to come back and, make this interesting because they still have to get the ball back again. And they're not going to get 2 onside kicks. And they didn't. But then the 49ers fumbled 2 plays later. And the Lions recover. And they still got like 40 seconds left in the game. And they've got plenty of, time to be able to execute. And all they need is a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. And they get all the way down to like the 18-yard line with like 20 seconds left. I'm like, are you effing kidding me here? Like, I can't be a part of the biggest loss in NFL history. I can't have my survivor pool end in week 1 to this shit. And they put the clamps down on Jared Goff. They get the stop on downs and win the game. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why did you make that as hard as you did? The Lions stink. Okay. Yeah, the only reason I felt like they came back in the game is because 49ers literally shut the switch off completely. Like, we got these guys. They're done. They're done. They stink. And then they weren't done yet. 41-33. It's the final here. I don't think the Lions are going to win very many games. Just going to be honest with you. Meanwhile, if the 49ers stay healthy, which we already seen Raheem Mostert go down for the season with an injury from this game, if they can stay relatively healthy, they're going to be a tough team to deal with this season. They're back. They are back. Minnesota at Cincinnati. This was a game that I was very definitive about. I told you that I thought Minnesota was going to stink this year. And my exclamation point on that statement was me picking Cincinnati in week 1. Because most people don't think Cincinnati is going to be very good. So that was my exclamation point. Me telling you that Minnesota's going to stink this year. And so, sure enough, Vikings come out super sloppy in this game. First of all, let me say this. Bravo to the Cincinnati Bengals fans for making the jungle feel like the jungle. It was loud. Wow. There was a buzz. I talked to my buddy. He lives in Cincinnati. Well, he doesn't live in Cincinnati. He lives in Ohio. Lives in Mason, which is right outside of Cincinnati. And I asked him, what's the atmosphere like there? Like, what's everybody saying? How they're feeling about the Bengals this year? And he's like, there's a sense of optimism. Year 2 of Joe, even though he's coming off the injury, they're excited about him. They would have preferred that the organization draft, Penei Sewell with the 5th overall pick, but it is what it is. But they're excited about Burrow. They're excited about Chase, even though he wasn't catching the ball in the preseason. We'll get to him in a second. They know what they have in Joe Mixon, and they're really excited about some of the moves they made in the offseason on defense. So there was this sense of excitement, optimism. I said, oh, okay, cool. You could sense that at the stadium. They were lit. That stadium was loud, and the Vikings felt it to the tune of 12 penalties for 116 yards. And it was false start after false start, illegal procedure after illegal procedure, just dumb, boneheaded pre-snap penalty after pre-snap penalty that was being forced because they couldn't communicate with one another. They couldn't even hear themselves think. Got to credit the Bengals fan base for that. So I did need to say that. But Cook had a massive fumble in this game. I talk about all the games that were impacted with big-time fumbles. This was another one. Now, you watch that replay. If the call on the field it wasn't a fumble, it wouldn't have been a fumble. They called it fumble on the field recovered by Cincinnati, so they kept it that way. His ass cheek was down, though, and he still had possession of the football. I don't think it was moving yet. I didn't love the call, but what we've seen, I think this is the 3 years running now. The officials and New York have made it a point of emphasis to say, look, if it's not definitive, if there's any doubt, stick with the call on the field. We've heard the officials or the former officials that work for all these networks, whether it's Mike Pereira or it's Gene Steratore, they make the point to tell us that, look, New York is instructing these officials, if it is not clear that you got the call wrong on the field, if there is any doubt, leave it alone. Leave it alone. And so that was one of those calls where I'm like, dude, his ass cheek is down. Like, that's not a fumble, but they're like, hey, his ass cheek might not be down. That ball could be moving already. I'm like, it could be, but it doesn't look like it. Well, we don't know it's not moving. I was like, all right, man, whatever. So they was like, it's a fumble? I'm like, I mean, if you're going to do it, do it. It's a fumble. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm cool with it. I didn't pick Minnesota any damn way. So make it a fumble. This game had no business going to overtime, though. You know, the Bengals had an opportunity to put this thing away, and they kind of just let the Vikings hang around. And, boy, they got back into that thing. And then, you know, for years, this has been an issue in Minnesota. They haven't had reliable field goal kicking. And they might have something now in this Greg Joseph guy, because he banged home the field goal to send this game probably from like 54 yards out to send this thing to overtime. So gets to overtime, and the Vikings are about to win this game, man. I mean, that fumble by Dalvin Cook, they literally were pretty much in field goal range at that point. They were probably going to win the football game. And this is with like 3 minutes left in overtime. It's not a lot of time left in overtime. So this is probably it. And that fumble gave it back to Cincinnati. They move it into field goal range, and they put their rookie kicker, McPherson, out on the field. And he had already made a big kick earlier in the game, and he bangs this one home and gives the Bengals the 27-24 win in their season opener. It was a great game. I'll tell you this right now. Herbert was fantastic in this game. Burrow was fantastic in this game. He was like 20 of 26, I think, for damn near 270. Jamar Chase, over 100 yards on 7 grabs, including like a 35, 40-yard touchdown deep ball. So all of that whole chitter-chat about him not being able to catch and this, that, and the third, he's fine. Trust me. And they did the thing that I said I would do to build his confidence. On the first possession of the game, I think they gave him like a jet sweep or something. Just get him in the game. I don't understand. Like, I think sometimes these coordinators make the game a lot tougher than it needs to be. Whatever. He went over 100 yards, and Joe Mixon was just phenomenal in this game. He went over 100 yards. He's back to fantasy football Joe. And part of that is because Joe's got Joe, and Joe's got Joe. You know, Joe Burrow's got Joe Mixon, and Joe Mixon's got Joe Burrow. So when those two are together, they make beautiful music. And think if you're a fantasy owner, you're probably stoked to see Joe Burrow back, because that means Joe Mixon is also back as well. Jets at Panthers. This was the Sam Darnold Bowl. And the fascinating part about this game, tons and tons of defense. And tons of Christian McCaffrey. We're going to get to that in a second. Let's start with the Jets. Zack Wilson, really solid debut, man. He had the one interception, tried to get it over linebacker Shaq Thompson. Shaq wasn't going for it. Tipped it to himself, picked it off. Outside of that throw, I thought he was really good. He was poised. He was under siege. He escaped the pocket, eluded pressure, extended plays. His touchdown pass, his first touchdown pass to Corey Davis, that was the extendo clip where he extended the play, got out of the pocket, and finds a wide open Corey Davis in the back of the end zone and throws a 35-yard laser off of unbalanced platform and hits him in the corner of the end zone. So I thought Zack Wilson looked the part. Corey Davis, money well spent. He was phenomenal in the game. Made me jealous because, that was the guy, as a Washington fan, I wanted in the offseason. He did have a drop in the game. You're going to get that from time to time with Corey Davis. That comes with the package. But overall, he was the best receiver out on the field for either team, if you ask me. And he was big for Zack Wilson. In order for Zack Wilson to mature and develop at the rate that he needs to, he's going to need a healthy Corey Davis. If Corey Davis is healthy, he'll have a number one receiver, and he'll be fine. And Corey Davis was really good in the football game. As for the Panthers, it was Christian McCaffrey on first down. It was Christian McCaffrey on second down. It was Christian McCaffrey on third down. It was Christian McCaffrey on fourth down. It was Christian McCaffrey on fifth down and Christian McCaffrey on sixth down. Whenever they had the ball of offense, they were like, just get it to Christian. It's almost as if they were trying to make up for lost time last season. Like, hey, Christian, we didn't get you for 362 touches last year. So we hate to do this to you, but we're going to need 40 touches from you in week one. I don't think he had 40 touches, but he wasn't that damn far off. I know he ran it at least 20 times in the game, and he had to have at least 9 or 10 catches. Let me check the stats on that. It was wild. It felt like every other down, Christian McCaffrey was touching the football. It was insane. Let me check and see what the numbers were on McCaffrey in this ball game, because I was just floored at how often they were going to Christian McCaffrey. So Christian McCaffrey had 21 carries and 9 catches. So 30 touches total in the game. What did I tell you? It had to be 9 or 10 catches, and it had to be at least 20 carries. It was 21 carries for 98 yards and 9 catches for 89 yards. He led the team in both. Okay? That's almost 200 yards of total offense by one guy. You're not surprised, because that's what Christian McCaffrey is. But if you were wondering, Run CMC is back. Like cook crack. So that's good to see if you're a Panthers fan. Sam Darnold was really good in this game. I was impressed. And the thing that made it even more impressive is he was under duress constantly in this game. The Jets were pressuring him. They were hitting him. And he was hanging tough, and he was delivering the football. And he even had a couple of drops in the game. And Sam Darnold was really good in this game. I was impressed. They didn't score a bunch of points, but they didn't make a ton of mistakes. And generally, when you find yourself in these low-scoring games, 19-14, 20-16, 17-13, when you find yourself in these types of games, the team that makes the least amount of mistakes or makes the least timely mistakes, because you could have less turnovers, but if you make one turnover at the worst time in the game, like Minnesota did, like Washington did, you can find yourself on the wrong end of a ball game that you probably should have won. So for the Panthers, they just found a way to stay. And this is the thing. They're coached by a defensive-minded guy, okay, in Matt Rule. So he's going to play it close to the vest. He's going to make sure that he doesn't put his team in harm's way with some of the decisions. So if they're in field goal range, but it's kind of, a little dicey, maybe a little bit further than you would, he'll punt the shit, pin them, and make them, like, they booed the draws off of him on 1 4th down, where I'm saying, you couldn't have gone for that or kicked the field goal? He was like, nope, gonna punt it and play defense. So that's his MO. That's his philosophy. They got rid of their field goal kicker today. He missed the extra point. He looked a little shaky, though. I don't blame them. Santoso, I think his name was. He didn't look so, he didn't look that great, all that great. So they got rid of him. Anyway, 19-14 is the final score of that ball game. Panthers, I think they're a team to watch. I told you last year that it's not going to take Matt Rule long to turn that program around, to get them to buy in, to get them to believe. They lost a lot of close games last year. I wouldn't be shocked if they won some of those games this year. And you look up at the end of the season and they're 9-8 and they're 10-7, hovering around the postseason. I wouldn't be shocked. Arizona at Tennessee. My goodness. All right. I said I had a double O debt to pay. Here it is. I was so disrespectful and out of pocket to the Arizona Cardinals before this game. Called them soft. I called them drugstore cotton soft. Said that the coach, who I like, Cliff Kingsbury, weren't going to have these boys ready. Kyler Murray doesn't want to be hit. And the Titans, I give all the credit to the Titans. Oh, my God, they're a bully, and they're going to really take it to the Cardinals because they're soft, and they're going to get the ball rammed down their throat. This, that, and the third. Oh, I was just in my bag about the Arizona Cardinals and how soft they were. I said soft with a capital T. Okay. I was wrong. Mistakes were made. They were the ones doing the ass kicking. They were the bullies. They were the goons out on the football field on Sunday afternoon in Nashville, Tennessee. The Titans wanted absolutely no smoke. The Cardinals made them look like bitches. That game, I'm telling you, I lie to you not. I was watching 6 games on Sunday afternoon. It was beautiful. Had 2 TVs. My computer screen had 4 games on it. Had 2 TV screens with individual games on them. I was in heaven. One of the 4 games was the Titan game. And it's hard to watch 6 at one time. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not easy. So sometimes you might find yourself focusing in on one game or another game. And when that game's, they're in the huddle, you look at another game real quick. Maybe you have a little bit more interest in that game, or maybe that team was driving the last time you took a look at it, so you need to see what's going on in that game. And I lost focus of the Titans game for about maybe 3 minutes. I looked away. I looked at the Washington game. I watched a little bit of the Philly game. I came back, looked at what Buffalo was doing, looked down, saw what the 49ers were doing, looked up. It was 17-0. And Chandler Jones already had 3 sacks. You got to halftime, and it's 24-6. Is it 6? Yeah, it's 24-6 at halftime. And I kept waiting for the Titans to snap out of it. Get into a rhythm, score a touchdown, get to Kyler Murray, force a 3 and out, and get the crowd involved. And all of a sudden, it's a 1-score game out of nowhere. Never happened. The final blow came in the third quarter when the Titans sacked Ryan Fitzpatrick or Ryan Tannehill for the fifth time or sixth time of the game. It was the fifth for Chandler Jones. And then they had to punt, and then Kyler Murray throws an unbelievable ball to Christian Kirk, where they come with a zero blitz. He just backpedals and then jumps in the air. I thought he was throwing the shit away. It just looked ridiculous. He just throws it up for grabs, it looks like. Nope, he throws it right to Christian Kirk, who is all by himself, but has to catch it over his shoulder. It's a beautiful catch, similar to the one that Tyler Lockett made. And I'm just saying, oh my God, the Titans are getting embarrassed. And they turned out to be the baby back bitches. And I haven't seen a team quit the way the Titans quit in the third. That they waved the white flag after that touchdown. They was like, all right, man, shit, we quit. Y'all got us. We'll come back and get them next week. They just coasted in the fourth quarter. The Cardinals said, okay, y'all waved the white flag. We acknowledge that you waved the white flag. We'll call off the dogs as long as y'all don't try to start barking. Wasn't no noise in the fourth quarter. Shit was over. 38-13. That was the end of the third quarter score. That was the end of the game score. They ran it down the Titans' throat. I talked all this shit about, the Titans run game and they going to bludgeon these boys to death. Nah. The Cardinals were doing all of the popping and the Titans were doing all of the dropping. They had Chase Edmonds out there looking like Barry Sanders, and they had James Conner looking like the damn bus. It was disgusting, and I loved every second of it. Because, there's nothing like utter disrespect in somebody else's house. I mean, they went in the fridge, opened up the container with the Kool-Aid in it, and they hawked the biggest loogie right in the goddamn container. I mean, they went into the kitchen sink, pulled their pants down, and took a deuce right in the sink. It was disrespectful. Titans should be ashamed of themselves. I don't even know who they are. I didn't know that team. But maybe I need to start paying more attention to Arizona because they did make some moves in the offseason to really give them a different look, like adding J.J. Watt to the mix. Changes shit up front because all of a sudden now, he may not be the same J.J. Watt from 5 years ago, but he's still J.J. mother effing Watt. So if you want to get crazy and you want to double team Chandler Jones, somebody's going to get your ass. It's a little bit different out there. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. That offense, man, Kyler Murray was a magician in this game. 5 touchdowns accounted for. One of the plays wasn't even a touchdown. This dude scrambles to his left, jukes the draws off of a defender, steps backwards, and throws. It was just a crazy escape to escape the pocket, make a guy miss, run all the way outside, make another guy miss, jump backwards, and throw a dart to a receiver. It's just like, stop playing with these boys, Kyler, man. That's not fair. That's some joystick Madden bullshit you just did. That's some 04 Michael Vick shit with the Falcons. That you like, man, y'all cheating. Kyler Murray was just doing some really nasty things. Lewd and disgusting. Despicable acts. I'm talking about back of the end zone, touchdown, toe drag swag to DeAndre Hopkins. You're like, that's rough. Talked about the Christian Kirk pass where he's got it located over the shoulder. Another bomb to Christian Kirk for a touchdown. Him and D-Hop both had 2 apiece. Like, man, this is rough. That was brutal. One of the most thorough ass whoopings of the day. And the Packers lost 38-3. This was worse than that. This felt worse than that. At least the Packers were on the road. They got emasculated at home. Ain't nothing worse than getting your doors blown off at your own crib. You come answer the door, you say, man, I help you, and then just smack the shit out of you and walk in your house and start doing shit in every single room. And you just stand there and watch. Titans look soft. I don't even know who I was watching. Those weren't the bullies I've seen the last 2 years. But it was week 1. But man, was that ugly. Chiefs hosting the Browns, a rematch of the divisional round last year in the postseason. This was a fun game. Really fun game. Probably the best game of Sunday. Browns dominated this game early. They came out and they made a statement early in this game. We're not afraid of you. We don't care that you're the Chiefs. We don't care that this is Arrowhead. We should have beat y'all in the playoffs last year. We let y'all off the hook. We're going to dust y'all ass this year. And it felt like it. I mean, they jumped these boys. You know, the Chiefs are used to everybody coming in being scared. Oh, it's Mahomes, it's Kelsey, it's Hill, it's the crowd at Arrowhead. You know, it's Chris Jones, yada, yada, yada. The Browns ain't give a shit about none of that. They came out running that bitch. Baker was slinging that shit all around the yard. I mean, this is some of the best Baker I've ever seen. I mean, this Bake right here, I was like, okay, you look like the number 1 pick in the draft right now. That's real talk. Bake was slinging that thing. And I was like, if Bake can do this, coupled with the run game, and you know you're going to get you some Hunt, and you're going to get you some Chubb. You know what it is. Whether you want it or you don't want it, you're going to get it. And they were giving it to those boys early. And they could do no wrong. And then that Chiefs thing happens. You know the thing I'm talking about. Mahomes starts to get into a rhythm, and then you can't check Kelsey. And now you're worried about Kelsey, and then Hill is getting you deep. And then all of a sudden, they got that 1-2 punch going. And then all of a sudden, the defense wakes up. Here comes Chris Jones. Now he's harassing your quarterback. And then the crowd gets involved. Mahomes and the offense gets revved up. And all of a sudden, you had a lead. And now you don't got a lead. It's evaporated. And now the Chiefs are winning. And that's sort of what happened. But there were some things that happened along the way that helped facilitate that Uncle Mo switching from the Brown sideline, him kicked back in the recliner, popping chips in his mouth and sipping a nice cold beverage, to then walking across the field and going and sitting over there on the sidelines next to Andy Reid. First things first, a big-ass fumble. What I tell y'all, man, a lot of big fumbles on this Sunday, man. Chubb's fumble was huge. It was massive because they were in the process of wrestling back control of the game. You felt it slipping away. Chiefs were making a run, and this was their opportunity to tell the fans, sit the hell down and shut up. You're not winning today. And they were well on their way to doing that on that particular drive, and Chubb just doing what he always does, fighting for extra yards and being physical. Ball gets popped out. People are perfecting that peanut punch too, man. Shit's getting out of control now. You better protect the dude, because dudes are like the Cowboys. You saw what they were doing on Hard Knocks at practice, had on boxing gloves, practicing punching the football out. Teams are practicing the shit now. Ball comes out. Chiefs recover. That was the first of 3 mishaps by the Browns to lose this football game. Number 2, their punter has a perfect snap back to him. Hadn't punted. This is how effective and efficient the Browns had been all day. He hadn't punted all game long. The first time he comes out to punt, he drops the damn football. Tries to run with it, gets mollywopped. Chiefs get the football. Of course, they're going to score again. They're the Kansas City Chiefs. And then they take the lead after that. The Browns still got Baker Mayfield playing out of his gourd. Still got all these weapons out there. They're still moving the football. But Chris Jones and that defense woke up. Jones had 2 sacks. I love guys that step up when they are supposed to. Like, they pay you the big bucks. They say you're the man. Show me you the man. Chris Jones is one of those dudes. I don't ever have to ask him, is he the man? He just shows me. I never have to ask Aaron Donald, are you the man? He just shows me. Dudes, Von Miller, 2 sacks. I don't have to ask. I haven't seen Von Miller in like 5 years. The first time I see the man in like 5 years, I don't have to ask Vaughn, are you still the man? 2 sacks. Don't worry about it. Chris Jones is one of those dudes. I don't have to ask Chris Jones, are you the man? When they need him, when they need a play, 95 shows up and gets it. They put pressure on Baker Mayfield, and wouldn't you know it, the first time he panics all game long and throws it up for grabs, it gets picked off by Mike Hughes. The Chiefs win the football game 33-29. It was a fantastic ball game. The Chiefs, it's just amazing. Their best guys are always their best guys. Mahomes never has a bag. I still don't know if Patrick Mahomes actually has a bad game under his belt yet. This is insane. Like, they showed these numbers in September for him. He's undefeated in September. He's thrown like 34 touchdowns, no interceptions in the month of September. I'm like, this guy's just ridiculous. And so you know what you're getting out of Mahomes. But then you're like, okay, maybe we get a bad week from Travis Kelce. You might get a drop here and there from Kelce. Guess what? He's still going to have 8 catches for 113 yards and a touchdown, so who gives a shit? Tyreek Hill, same damn thing. You're thinking, okay, we going to shut down one of these dudes. Well, the other one's going to kick your ass. You just hope both of them don't. Well, Tyreek Hill went off too. He had 40-something yards in this game, 150-something, some ridiculous number. They're crazy, man. All their best guys step up every game, it seems like. And they didn't even have Tyrann Mathieu in this game. The Chiefs are sickening, man. They're sickening how good they are. They get the win. Dolphins, Patriots. This was an AFC East family business affair if I've ever seen one. This was so slow and slow developing and long and just, But you got to respect it because it's family business. And it's not my business, so I try to stay out of it. But tell you what, the Dolphins won this game. The Patriots had every opportunity to win this game. This was another one of those massive fumble games. We'll talk about that later on. But let's talk about the Dolphins first. They get the win 17-16. I really think Brian Flores is going to be the only one of these Patriot disciples to work because he just gets it. All these other dudes think they're Belichick, so they go into these other places trying to play Belichick, and that shit falls on deaf ears because you don't have the hardware to be able to flash in somebody's face and say, hey, like Coach Boyu used to do. Hey, woohoo, go ahead, do it, run it. You don't have that kind of clout. So when you go to your new place and you start trying to lay down the law and tell people what they're going to do, and you got coaches running laps and all this dumb bullshit, you practicing in pads and beating the shit out of each other all week long before the game, and then you still losing, players start to tune your ass out. Well, Flores went over there and he told everybody what the agenda and what the move was. Like, hey, this is what we're doing. If you want out, please let me know so I can help you. I don't want anybody here that doesn't want to be here. And so they moved on from all of the dudes that had something to say. Kenyon Drakes of the world, the Jarvis Landrys, the Kiko Alonzos, the Minka Fitzpatrick. Y'all don't want to be here, KS, because we're going to build something here. And they got rid of all of those dudes. And the thing I love about Brian Flores is they're unapologetic for doing what it is they do and how they do it to win. Yesterday, they were running Wildcat, return to the scene of the crime. That's where it all started. If you remember, back in like 05 with Ronnie Brown, it might have been like 2008, something like that, where they just ran the Wildcat and the Patriots were like, what the hell? Like, they act like they had never seen somebody other than the quarterback take a snap. And the league went apeshit about, Wildcat. And everybody tried to run it. So they were running Wildcat in this game. They had Tua all over the football field, at receiver, this, that, and the third, taking them out of the game, putting Jacoby Brissett in for a couple. They don't give a shit how they do it. They just trying to get a win, man. They just trying to get a win. I'm thinking, okay, they just bringing Jacoby Brissett in for quarterback sneak. Nah, he stayed in for another play and threw the ball. Right. Huh. Interesting. Like, they don't care. They throwing all kinds of curveballs. You weren't expecting Jacoby Brissett to throw a pass, were you? Caught your ass off guard. All right, Tua, get back in there. They're doing all kinds of shit. But it worked. And they got timely stops defensively. But I want to say this. Tua was very solid. Wasn't extraordinary. Solid. What they needed from him. He ran the first touchdown of the game in on the first drive. I think it was one of the early drives. Might have been the first drive of the game. It was an impressive drive, too. Tua was sharp. The running game was good. And he runs a read option, walks in. Got to respect his legs. He's no stiff back there. I thought he managed the game well. And I got another 0-0. I really don't want to hand this one out. But I may have to, because I was so disrespectful to this man. I mean, if I ran into his mama on the street, she probably would have punched me in my face. I was so disrespectful, and I wouldn't have blamed her. She would have hit me. I would have looked up. I would have been like, what the? And if she would have had a Myles Gaskins jersey on, I would have said, Mama Gaskins, I'm sorry. I deserve that. Because I've been I gave him the Austin Eckler treatment. Totally Rodney Dangerfield him. Can't get no respect. He's just like Austin Eckler. You need to put some respect on that man's name. Because he does it all for them. He runs it. He catches it out of the backfield. He makes people miss. Got a better appreciation for Myles Gaskin. He still shouldn't be anybody's lead back. Just like I don't think Austin Eckler should be anybody's lead back. But they're capable of carrying that load if they have to. But that ain't what you want them to do. But he's good, man. He's so good for them. And I disrespected, because they got both of those undrafted UW backs. You know, they got Salvon Ahmed. He's fast as shit, by the way. I said this a while ago. Tua is the kind of quarterback that you can win games with. Right now, he's not capable of taking over a game. But if you manage the game, if the defense plays well, you can win games with Tua, and that's what happened here. He had a bad interception late in this game. Bad interception. Throw the football away. But when they needed him on that final drive, similar to Justin Herbert, game on the line, because if you pick up 3 first downs, the game's over. Patriots fumble the ball. We're going to get to that in a second. They get the football back with 4 minutes left on the clock. And they need to run their 4-minute offense. And they come out slinging it with Tua. No, everybody thought they were going to hand it off. Tua throws a slant. And I think that was Tua reading the defense saying, all right, I got an opportunity. Everybody else thinks it's run. My linemen think it's a run. I'm going to throw this quick slant to Devontae Parker. And he got into a rhythm, and he was outstanding on that final drive of the game when they had to have it. He was at his best. And they salt this game away 17-16. Let's get to the Patriots. I thought Mac Jones was the best rookie quarterback of the day. And I've said that already multiple times during the preseason. He was just poised. He was calm. He was cool. He was collected. Here's the problem with Mac Jones. And I even saw Mac Jones using his legs to extend plays, which I didn't think he was capable of doing. So he showed a little bit of everything. Here's the problem with Mac Jones right now is that he's Tom Brady without the finishing touch. And so what I mean by that is he'll get surgical like Tom. He'll nickel and dime you like Tom. He'll go 7 for 8 on the drive for 56 yards, and he's moving it. And then they get into the red zone, and he can't finish the job. And when you can't finish the job, nobody's afraid of letting you go up and down the field if they know you're going to settle for a field goal. You got to finish the job. And he wasn't really finishing the job on these drives. But he was moving the ball, though. He was moving them. But it really was more about the run game. And what they were getting out of Damian Harris. And he was spectacular in this game. Similar to Antonio Gibson with Washington, he was the player for them offensively. Went over 100 yards. I think he had 100 yards on the nose in this game rushing. He was fantastic. But in the most crucial juncture of the game, trailing 17-16 with 4 minutes left in the game, you're already in field goal range. The question isn't whether you're going to get a field goal to take the lead. It's either, are we going to score a touchdown and go for 2 to extend this thing out to a 7-point lead, or are we going to bleed the clock, make the Dolphins use their timeouts, and kick a walk-off field goal and win this game 19-17? That was the question that the Patriots were mulling over with about 4 minutes left, right around the 31, 27-yard line, something like that, maybe even the 17. They were very close to the end zone. And he puts the football on the carpet. Fumble forced by X-Man Xavier Howard. You want to know why he wanted more money? You want to know why he gets paid the big bucks? In the biggest part of the game, he makes a play. And it's not just his coverage skills. He pulled that football out, and then he recovered it. Massive play in the game. Massive. Dolphins run out the remaining 4 minutes of the clock with 3 or 4 first downs. Game over. Massive fumble. Patriots lose the game 17-16. Denver Broncos, New York Football Giants. 27-13 is the final score in this game. The Denver Broncos were damn near flawless on offense because this is how they're going to win games. Teddy was spectacular in this game. Only 8 incompletions. I think he finished the game 28 of 36 for like 270-something. They went for it on 4th down 3 times and converted all 3 times. Melvin Gordon III, MG3, was money. 70-yard touchdown run to put the game out of reach. Over 100 yards rushing in the game. I thought him and the rookie running back, Javonte Williams, were both really quality in this game against that Giants vaunted front. They ran the football very effectively, did Denver. But the story of the game was just all of the guys for Denver stepping up. Teddy stepping up, MG3 stepping up. Jerry Jeudy, before he got injured, was killing the Giants. Six catches on 7 targets for 70-some-odd yards before he got injured. I thought the tight ends for the Giants or for the Broncos did a good job. Albert O, Noah Fant, and then Von Miller, 2 sacks in the game. Von Miller doing Von Miller things. All the guys stepped up. That's a talented Broncos team, and I've said this already. The reason they turned this team over to Teddy Bridgewater is because he's not going to hurt them. He's not going to beat them. He's not going to make the back-breaking mistake like Drew Lock will. He'll give them a chance to win these types of games. 1 or 2 mistakes by the quarterback in this game, this is a totally different game. Go ask the Giants. It's 17-7. Daniel Jones has this Giants offense driving the football. They're deep in Broncos territory. They're going to at least come out of this possession with a field goal attempt, which will cut it to a 1-score game. They may even score a touchdown because they're moving the football. And Daniel Jones, in typical Daniel Jones fashion, fumbles the football. Not in the normal sense of him being in the pocket and being unaware of his surroundings, but running the football, trying to do too much, leaves his feet in the air, ball gets poked out. Broncos recover. They never recovered from that. Broncos take that football, move the length of the field, get a field goal, extend the lead out to 20-7, and the Giants were sort of just stuck on stupid at that point. Inept on offense, couldn't convert on big-time conversions. They went for it on the 4th down later in the game at 20-7, couldn't convert that, and that's when you got the 70-yard run from Melvin Gordon III to put the game on ice, essentially making it 27-7. The Giants scored a garbage time touchdown, but it was of no consequence. That was impressive by Denver because that's the winning formula right there. Teddy Bridgewater managed the game, be a distributor, don't turn it over, take care of the football. have your playmakers step up and make plays. KJ Hamler was outstanding. All of their receivers. Tim Patrick caught a touchdown pass. He was fantastic in this game. Spread it around. Got a ton of skill guys. I've said it. The Broncos are one of the most talented teams in all of football. Say what you want about John Elway. He can't find a quarterback. He knows how to trade for one. May not be able to draft one. He knows how to trade for one, but he knows how to assemble talent on the roster. Got to give him credit for that. They got talent everywhere. And if they just play within themselves, they got a chance to be a team to be reckoned with in that AFC West. They get it done 27-13. It's for the Giants. Big fumble by Daniel Jones. Talked about the fumbles on the day in week 1 in particular and how there were some costly ones. You saw it on Monday Night Football with Lamar Jackson having that fumble at the end of overtime. A lot of big fumbles costing teams around the league. Daniel Jones' fumble was huge. Not as big as some of the other ones where they literally directly led the losses, but that one stopped the Giants dead in their tracks when they were trying to mount a comeback. You can't give up fourth downs. You can't have 3 attempts and 3 conversions by the opposition if you're the Giants defensively. And then they were the Broncos were 7-15. So when they didn't get it on 4th down, they got it on or 3rd down. They got it on 4th down. So when you couple the 3 of 3 on 4th down with the 7 of 15 on 3rd down, they're essentially 10 of 15 in the game. Just like Washington giving up 14 of 19 3rd downs, it's almost impossible to win when you're allowing a team to dominate you time of possession and snaps in the game like that. That's what happened to the Giants in this game. They weren't good enough defensively. Nobody stepped up and made a play for them defensively. And so they lose this game. And then finally, the biggest surprise of the day was the utter destruction of the Green Bay Packers at the hands of the New Orleans Saints, 38-3. I didn't see it coming. Some of you might have. I didn't. I didn't see it coming. I told you guys I'd watched the first half of the game. I hadn't watched the second half yet. I didn't know what exactly the Saints did and how well Jameis was playing or not playing. And, everybody was showering Jameis with all this praise and talking about how he's a changed man and how he's going to be so good with Sean Payton. He's not going to turn the football over. And I said, well, I didn't see any of that in the first half. You guys, maybe he has turned over a new leaf. Then I watched the second half and I said, oh, there's my old buddy J-Bo. There he is. Yeah. I thought the Packers, first of all, the Saints, give them credit. They dominated the Packers defensively. Like, they dominated Aaron Rodgers in a way that I haven't seen. I don't know if I've seen that from an Aaron Rodgers-led offensive attack in the last 7 years. I've seen Green Bay have their offensive line destroyed and Rodgers not have time. But when he's got time, he's got targets to get the football to. Like, they got after Rodgers, but when he had time, he didn't have anybody to throw the football to. So it was just like, whoa, what is going on here? Is their coverage that good? It was. So you got to give them credit there. But what was fascinating was they couldn't do anything right. They couldn't get any calls. They just, it was a bad game for the Green Bay Packers. Great example of what I'm referring to. Packers are trying to make a run in the second half. I think this game was 17-3 at the halftime break. They were being dominated pretty good. Might have even already been 24-3. I think it was 17 though at the time. Packers get the ball to start the second half, and they're moving it down the field. And the Packers end up having Rodgers ends up throwing an interception, kills the drive, and really that was the back-breaking turnover. But the defense gives it up all the way down the field. They get in the red zone and they stiffen. And in a critical third down situation, Jameis Winston throws it into triple coverage. Oh, J-Bo coming out to play, man. He can't help himself. And it gets picked off. And Darnell Savage is running the other way with it. The Packers have great field position. It's a momentous play. They're not dead just yet. and the officials throw a flag for roughing the passer on Zadarius Smith. And literally, if the NFL wanted to show other players around the league how to take a quarterback down to the turf without putting your body weight on them, this would have been the textbook example of how to do it. It wasn't late. There was no malicious intent. There was no spearing of the helmet. There was no contact to the head. He literally put his shoulder pad in Jameis Winston's chest. He went off to the side of him. He did not drop his body weight on him. And they called him for roughing the passer, negating the interception. I said, are you effing kidding me? Now, they weren't going to win the game because of this. They still were outplayed and thoroughly dominated in every phase of the game. But if you didn't watch the game and you see Jameis's numbers and he took care of the ball and he managed the game well, you're thinking, man, Jameis has turned over a new leaf. I'm over here like, hurts. Not exactly. I think if you apply pressure to Jameis, he'll still come out and play with you. The old Jameis is still in there somewhere. And if you extract him, you can get it out of him. They ran the hell out of the football. They put Jameis in some great spots. And he did make some plays. You know, the fourth down toss to I'm going to tell you this too. They got a hell of a tight end prospect in Juwan Johnson out there, man. Shit, he looks good. 6'4", 235, 240. I told you guys when he came out, the running joke was he's a tight end. He just doesn't know it. He was a receiver at Oregon. And the running joke was he's a tight end. He just doesn't know it yet. Well, he's going to make one hell of a tight end. He looks like he's got Darren Waller written all over him. He's going to be a problem. Anyway, he had 2 touchdown grabs in the game. Winston was outstanding, but he's still there. You put pressure on him, he's still Jameis Winston. I will tell you this, he's in phenomenal shape. Best shape I've ever seen him in his career. He's running around, escaping the pocket, extending plays with his legs. He's in tremendous shape. But if you put pressure on him and you force him into a throw earlier than he wants to make it, he'll still give you opportunities to pick him off. He isn't cured yet. Don't know if he ever will be. But that was as dominant a performance as you will see all weekend, and the biggest surprise. And I'm going to tell you this. I was shocked at just how many Saints fans were in Jacksonville. Maybe I shouldn't be. That's maybe why they chose Jacksonville. Not that far for Saints fans to travel to make it a home game environment. But they were loud. They were loud. It felt like the Superdome just outside. Got to give them credit for showing up and making it feel like a home game. And I didn't know this till I was told during the telecast, but the Packers have some kind of issue playing in Florida where they can't win. And that went into the thought process of the Saints choosing Jacksonville as the location where they wanted to have the game. I had no privy or no prior knowledge of the Packers' struggles in Florida. Now I know. That's good for future football pools. Some good information to know. Saints 38, Packers 3. They were absolutely destroyed. Aaron Rodgers was not great in this game. He did not have a great supporting cast. The defense, they had no answers for the Saints' run game, and then they went play action fake, and they just had no answers. And when there were opportunities there for them to make some plays on fourth downs and some critical third downs, they simply could not get off the field. So big win for the Saints. And as the Packers said, it's one game, wipe it from the memory bank, and good to have the Detroit Lions next. It's easy to say that when the Lions are next instead of being the Baltimore Ravens and having to face the Chiefs next. But anyway, I digress. So let's get to some of your comments. I think I see some super chats here. Got one here from Stephen Combs. Thank you for the super chat, Stephen. Greatly appreciate you. Right. Under the impression that while Taylor Heineke or Fitz may not be the long-term answer at quarterback. Will let us properly assess talent and see if money can be spent for QB next year. That goes into the thought process. I don't know if they're looking to spend big money on quarterback, because how many quarterbacks are actually available during free agency that you want to spend big money on? I think the real question is, are we a quarterback away? Having a guy like Fitz or Taylor Heineke that can run the offense and allow them to assess the other players helps those players grow in the system that you hope that they're going to continue to be in with Scott Turner. But additionally, it helps build this team into something that you think maybe we can drop a guy in here and win something big. That's the hope. That you continue to build off of the success of the year previous. You won the division last year. You hope to parlay that into, another playoff berth. And then you upgrade the quarterback position and you just take that next step, whether that's a rookie. Maybe you take a step back with a rookie, or you get lucky, get a Russell Wilson type rookie that jumps in, hits the ground running, and you're in the divisional round of the postseason with a chance to go to the NFC Championship game, or you trade for Aaron Rodgers or someone like that. Highly unlikely, but you just never know. We didn't know all of those quarterbacks would be available last offseason. So who's to say who becomes available this offseason? Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. And thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Metaphor writes, "Sup, Lou? Sup, Metaphor? I'm ready for Big Tay. Gotta have this Giants game and right our ship. Not part of Ron's plan, but the ride has gotten a detour. Put it in manual. No, losing in week 1 to the Chargers was not a part of Ron's plan initially, but you have to improvise sometimes. Sometimes shit happens. Got to make a pit stop. No one ever plans for a flat tire, but you pull off on the side of the road, you get the flat off, you put a spare on, and you keep it rolling. I'm not saying that we got a flat tire, but if we don't beat the Giants, we have a flat tire. And I'm not sure if there's a spare in the trunk or not. So let's not find out. Let's beat the Giants and not have to worry about that. Thank you for the super chat. Metaphor. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Metaphor. Greatly appreciate you. No more mob signings and comp for my tickets, please. #why. You might get that. I don't think you're going to get that. I think you're going to get a whole bunch of people joining the mob to try to get the tickets. But never know. You might. We'll see. Let me say something else about Cincinnati. I meant to say this when I was breaking down their game. I'm so impressed with their defense and the overhaul that they've made defensively. I've always had a thing for Trey Hendrickson. I think he's going to be really good for them. I personally wanted Hilton from the Steelers. And he's the perfect slot guy, can blitz, physical around the line of scrimmage, tackles. He did get beat on a slant by Adam Thielen. But Mike Hilton, he's a football player. You look at BJ Hill, who they just traded for, Larry Ogunjobi, who they had signed in free agency. All of these guys made plays. I think BJ Hill had 2 sacks in the game. Just traded for him from the Giants. They've overhauled their defense. I actually thought Chidobe Awuzie played his ass off in the game. Like, they look like a better defensive unit. And then they got John Bates, who I think is just a phenomenal safety. John Bates. They got Bates the third. All right, John Bates. I'm thinking about Washington's tight end. That kid is awesome. They need to pay him his money. But they piss him off and he doesn't want to sign with them. They'll probably slap the franchise tag on him. But he's a hell of a football player. They got some shit out there, man. Cincinnati, I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Anyway, I digress. John Livingston, my guy, JL Smooth, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. And thank you for being a member of the MOBB who writes. What up, Lou? What up, JL? Not going to lie, when I heard Fitz went to IR, I was a bit relieved. Fitz always scares me, and maybe I'm underestimating Heineke. Definitely will be watching closely Thursday night. You'll get a show. Taylor Heineke's legit, and I think everyone got a glimpse of it in the postseason last year against the Bucs, and I think you're going to get a little bit more on Thursday night. I'm confident, man. I'm hella confident in my guy. I really am. This is the guy I wanted to start all along. So I think he gives us the best chance to win. I think the players feel that way too. They won't admit it, of course, but I think that the guys that were here last year on the team and saw the swagger that he brought to the table and what he did in limited reps, I think they feel like this guy can get it done for him. We'll see. Let's finish up the show with garbage time. So, I was watching college football over the weekend. And you know I'm not the biggest college football guy. I'm not going to sit here and act like I am. But I've watched more college football in the first 2 weeks of the college football season this year than probably the last 5 college football seasons combined in the first 2 weeks. And what I'm here to tell you, and you could correct me if I'm wrong or if you feel differently, I'd love to hear from you. I don't think there's a dominant team in college football this year. Like anybody could win the national championship. I know Alabama looked good against Miami and they blew out whoever they played this past week. It was some, you know what it is. If I play a big team in week 1 of college football, I'm not going to double up and play a big team in week 2. I'm going to get some scrub to beat up on the second week. Excuse me. So they beat up on some Western Carolina team or something like that. Beat the brakes off of them. But what I'm seeing from all of the teams that are in the top 10 is that none of them are dominant. All of them can be beaten. All of them have weaknesses. There were years where you looked at Clemson and you looked at Alabama and you looked at Ohio State and you say, they don't have any weaknesses. It's just who's better on that day. Specifically Clemson and Alabama, not necessarily Ohio State, because I've always questioned their quarterback position. But with Alabama and Clemson, there've been years, these last 4 or 5 years straight, where one of or the other or both, you're like, who the hell's beating them? Only the other one can beat the other one. Nobody else in the nation can beat Alabama when they got this much talent. That's not the case this year, though. And I like their young quarterback, but he's young. And that's another thing I've noticed. Every quarterback left at the same time. So nobody has that guy that's been there 3-4 years that you're like, hey, they can win it because they got all this stuff and they got a quarterback that's seen it all, done it all, that's ready to win in his junior season now. Justin Fields left. Trevor Lawrence left. Everybody's got brand new quarterbacks. Oklahoma has Spencer Rattler. I'm not impressed. Sorry, not sorry. Not impressed. They're going to have to show. And I don't trust their defense anyway. If you've got a semblance of an offense, you can score 50 on Oklahoma. And I don't think Spencer Rattler is good enough to outduel a good team that can score. He's going to turn it over 2 or 3 times in the ballgame. Who really believes in Iowa just because they just beat Iowa State? Like, I'm watching Iowa and I'm like, they're cool, but they're Iowa. Okay? Like, nobody's afraid of Iowa. So, and I'm watching their quarterback. He's okay. He doesn't scare anybody. We know Notre Dame's a fraud. I know Notre Dame's a fraud. We almost lost. Who was the team we just played? Toledo? I mean, give me a break. And even if you thought maybe Florida State's not as bad as they've been in the past, maybe Notre Dame actually beat a solid Florida State team. They just lost to Jacksonville State. They still stink, which means we really stink. There's no dominant team in college football this year. Georgia has the defense to win the national championship. I don't know about their quarterback position. JT Daniels, maybe. He didn't even play this week. He was injured. They brought in the guy that's like 5'8" and 120 pounds, and he threw 5 touchdown passes. But we know he could stink at any time. We watched him last year. Florida, same thing. Defensively, they might have enough. They can't win with their quarterback situation being the way it is. I'm sorry, they can't. So, and I think we got, I don't think it's Florida, Georgia this week, but it's Florida. Is it Bama, Florida this week? I think it's Florida and Bama this week. It's going to be, that's going to be interesting because it's in the swamp. I know that. Michigan, I'm not impressed. I watched them against Washington. Nope. Now, and this is the best year for Harbaugh to finally beat Ohio State. And I don't think they have enough. Not blown away by their quarterback. They lost their best receiver already. I'm not sold. I look around the top 10 and I'm like, there's nothing here, man. Nobody's dominant. I wouldn't be shocked if Alabama won it all again. But I can tell you this much. There isn't a dominant team in college football this year. And because of that, I think anybody can win it. But you got to have enough talent. And you got to have good quarterback play. Those are 2 prerequisites to even be in the discussion. Got to have a quarterback that has shown the ability to get it done. And you got to have a ton of talent. Still. And some semblance of defense. You can't just be one of these teams that thinks they're going to outscore everybody. Because you're going to run into a team that can score and play enough defense that's going to hold your team down. That's why Oklahoma, I never take them serious. Because they can score with anybody, but they can't stop anybody from scoring. And that's why I think it's comical that Oklahoma and Texas think they're going to just waltz into the SEC and not get their brains bashed in. Like Oklahoma, to me, that's the dumbest thing they've ever done is go to the SEC when that happens. Because you went from an automatic bid to the playoffs every year if you just take care of the Big 12 to now all of a sudden you're going to lose 2-3 games every year. You're not going anywhere but to the Macaroni and Cheese Bowl in December, and half of your squad is going to declare for the NFL draft. So I just thought, I mean, you're chasing after the almighty dollar, and that's great. All the money that's there to be made in the SEC, I get it. But you're not winning a national championship now. Good luck with that. You saw what happened in Texas, by the way? They just got a little taste. They didn't play Ole Miss. They didn't play Auburn. They played Arkansas and got their doors blown off. And they want to go to the SEC? I'll sick Vanderbilt on them or Kentucky on them. And they'll do those boys. Hell, I'll even throw Tennessee at them and they might struggle. Want to go to the SEC. Give me a break. Anyway, I digress. I said all of that to say this. There's no dominant team in college football. Penn State can play defense. Their offense is atrocious. There's not a single team I look at in the top 10 of the college football rankings right now, and I say, man, I don't know how you beat them. Which is good. Because for too long, we've already predetermined the winner before the season started. It's just a matter of how do they get there and can they stay healthy. It's always been, it's either going to be Alabama or Clemson. Maybe Ohio State sneaks in there this year. Well, none of those teams have the quarterback this year. Clemson starting over with DJ. Ohio State starting over. I watched that young fella for the first time over the weekend in the loss to Oregon. He's not bad. He just needs time. He just needs time. He's not bad, though. Not bad at all. Speaking of Oregon, they're not bad. I don't trust their quarterback. But they're interesting because they play defense. They're super athletic. They can run. They can run the football. They're interesting. But they have to play almost flawless football. Like, they have to play a clean game. Like, it's going to be hard for them to turn it over twice and still win against a really good team. Whereas there are teams out there that can turn it over multiple times and still have a chance. So I worry about them from that aspect, but they're interesting. But again, they're not dominant. No one in college football is. So in any event, that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on the 201st installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I really appreciate y'all chopping it up with me on this late night, on a Tuesday night, no less. Could have had a million things to do, but you sitting here chopping it up with me, your man, Louie T, and I can't be more excited for that. So I thank you guys. I'm so grateful. Anyway, I'm going to get out of your hair so you can enjoy the rest of your night, get back to whatever it was you were doing before I interrupted your evening. And so get off the bench and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. I will see you guys tomorrow. This was kind of a makeup for Monday, so we'll run it back tomorrow. You start lining up your comments, social media maneuvers tomorrow, back to business as usual. I'll see you guys then. Have a great night. God bless. Good night. Take care.